All right, welcome to the Agriscaping Podcast. This is Justin Roner, your host for today, and is most often every day. And so I'm here to help share with you how we're growing food across the nation, and we're bringing people together to find a way to improve local food economies, improve the way we grow stuff, improve people's lives, help them grow their own health. There's a lot of awesome sub-subjects that align with what we do with agriscaping. And in the background, you might hear a little bit of music, a little bit of sound. I'm actually coming in today from Bagels and Bialys. It's a New York Bagels and Bialys that we've got right here in Scottsdale. I'm at Sky Song, and this is actually one of the restaurants that we serve. So we have a garden, we have Agriscape all integrated into the landscape surrounding this particular location. And my team's out here harvesting and planting today. We've got some competitions. I think there's some bar stool competitions actually going on in the next restaurant over, another one of our restaurants that's right next door. Bitters. So if you're ever in Scottsdale, and you want to check out some really cool restaurants that are using locally grown food, everything's within 15 miles and most of it's within 15 feet of the restaurant, thanks to the Agriscapes that are here right on site. Come out here to Sky Song in Scottsdale. And that's really a secondary story to who I've got on the line with me right now, which I've got Jessica and Joe. You want to say hello?
Hey.
Hey there.
Thanks so much for having us, Justin.
Hey, we're happy to have you on. And part of the storyline, I guess, of how we met is coming from the Kickstarter world. You know, we both have apparently enjoyed the benefits of the Kickstarter system to try to help us spark something out there in the world. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what you were trying to spark on Kickstarter and what you guys are up to right now.
Well, we have a film that's coming out this spring called Grow Food, and we were raising funds to help us with the post-production of that, and just to try to get the word out. Kickstarter is a great place to connect with people and create like a buzz and like build community with like-minded people, and we just really were excited to bring this out there and see how it was received, and it was received very well. And that's, you know, we really are trying to bring this same message. We all share the same message. It's interesting how we all fall into this whole, like, you know, let's grow food to like save people and improve the planet. And this is what we're all starting to realize today. And, you know, so we, you know, the whole Kickstarter platform is a really great place to get that message out.
And meet people like you.
Yeah, there we go. And it's fun because we just we find each other. Yeah, and that's kind of how we found you guys, and then you guys found us. It's kind of like we're all just kind of co-creating from our different parts of the planet, trying to help move things along, because we know, and as many people maybe don't know, that our food supply is definitely, it's kind of a high risk scenario right now, and where things are headed is just going to get more risky. Have you guys noticed the same?
For sure. I mean, that's, you know, been one of our main motivations for really inspiring people to grow their own food and in community gardens in the backyards and so forth, that so we can gain some stability in that area.
Yeah, and I hope all of you out there can you can find these guys on, I guess, Grow Food. Is it growfoodfilm.com?
That's correct, yes.
Growfoodfilm.com. And I'm looking at Jessica's picture right now. It's a really great picture. She's upside down on the but this is perfect, because in a lot of ways we have to help people really flip their head around about how they source their food and where it comes from and how it works, and get them growing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us a little bit more about what's actually in the film you guys are coming out with this spring.
Well, this started out, I guess we'll start out with some backstory here. Jessica had worked for me and my company, Rebel Health Tribe, for, about 2 years before she was a virtual assistant for about 2 years before we actually met. By the way, totally underutilizing her talents and expertise. But we met in person, about a year and 2 or 3 months ago now. Came to our house, met myself and my family, and within about 20 minutes, first of all, if you know Jessica, you know that within 5 minutes she's going to start talking about growing food and soil, which is awesome. And within about 20 minutes, she blew my mind with how much knowledge she has and her passion, and how how she talked about soil health and growing food could literally save humanity. And so I stopped her, and it said, you know what, more people need to hear this. And I went on our Facebook business page, and we did a Facebook Live right there on the spot. And she talked, about the plant health pyramid and plant secondary metabolites. And I was like, what is going on here? And, that was sort of the spark that started, everything that came out of that, which was our garden course and this documentary. So from there, we traveled around the country a bit, talking to experts like Will Allen and
Dan Kittredge, Patty Gentry,
some really amazing people. Found a guy local here on Long Island who quit his job servicing pools, which, out here on Long Island is pretty lucrative. But he had no purpose. He had no meaning. And so he quit his job and he started growing food. The problem was he had no property. He didn't own a house. And so to overcome that, he put a flyer out in a few coffee shops and so forth, asking people if they wanted food or a farm basically on their front lawn instead of their front lawn. Mm-hmm. I found that flyer, we connected, and we started interviewing him and hearing his story. And it was just really profound and inspiring because, here's a guy that didn't know anything about growing food, but he just started. And it's amazing what he's been able to accomplish in the past year. And he's really our main character in the film.
That's awesome. And I was having a conversation with my kids this morning just about food and, what people can invent these days and stuff like that. And it was actually kind of an interesting conversation because I asked them, I said, hey kids, how expensive do you think an orange would be if some person actually had to make it? And they're like sitting there, it's like, oh, so let's just figure it out. I mean, the chemicals involved and the different films that we'd have to create and these different little, these little, almost little succulent things that are stuck inside of each little sleeve of orange. And we're just going through it. And we figured it's close to $1 million just to make one orange if we had to make it ourselves. If it had to be manufactured and created, and we're like, oh, wow. Mm-hmm. But then we look at, when you set the stage for a plant to grow, it kind of can grow itself. When you start learning and you start kind of communing with that nature, you start communing with the thing that's being grown, and then you can grow it in such abundance that the price of an orange is obviously not $1 million. And,
right.
And it was just a cool little conversation to have with these kids because they were just mind blown. It helped increase the value of the food they were eating. Like I just started seeing my son like peeling the orange more carefully. Like he's like peeling it and like looking more underneath the skin, and he's like how it's working. And all of a sudden this respect starts growing, no pun intended, but from just a greater realization of what occurs for this life that we eat so quickly. And how it's produced, but then at the same time, what a great, how easy it can be that someone who's not grown anything before all of a sudden can jump out and start growing things to gain more purpose in his life.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we're really like seeing all over the place. People are just coming together to grow food. It's like we all eat, and that's something that we can all share and that can break down barriers and really bring people together. I know Joe and I, when we were out doing the garden course in his dad's backyard, we were just out there and you ask and you just have these huge life conversations that you would have never had before. And so with community gardens and with the people that we interviewed, we would just go there and work in the gardens with them. We'd put the camera down, start seeing what they needed done, and you just start having these really amazing conversations and getting to know people on a level you wouldn't have before. And it just brings this appreciation to what it is that we're creating, which is more than just food. We're creating an ecosystem amongst ourselves that's synergistic, and we really get to have that connection to not only the food but each other, which makes the food that much better for all of us.
Yeah, so it's this deeper connection to the earth with the soil and to each other, which, gosh, if we don't need that right now, I don't know what we need.
Yeah. It's I noticed that people don't typically overeat when they grow it themselves. Have you ever noticed
It's
that?
true. Yeah.
Like you don't want to be a glutton when you know you've got to kind of pace, and you have more respect for it. So it's like
Right.
a lot of the ailments that we have, just the United States, we seem to be the sickest country in the world, as well as the most medicated. It's like One Nation Under Therapy is a book I saw the title for. I never actually read it, but
I'm stealing that.
One Nation Under Therapy, it made sense to me. Said, yep, I get it. But it's beautiful what you guys are creating, and I want to know a little bit more. Jessica, tell me a little bit more about your background, because I know it's unique, as well as you've put a lot of time into your education in order to get where you're at as well. It's not just like you're jumping ship from one place to another. It sounds like it's just part of who you've been for a while. Is that about accurate?
Yes, that's actually like right on with it. As a child, I ended up at my grandpa's farm for a while and living near him. And he just kind of, he would have his garden, his orchards. He was always about the old way of doing things, and he always was interested in, just he didn't call it organic because that was like a hippie word, but to him it was just the way it's always been done. So I would follow him around and just do whatever he was doing and learn from him, and I just loved it so much. There was something about squatting near the earth that was just so calming and nurturing to me as a kid. And when I was like 10 years old, he told me, he said, if you take care of the land, it'll take care of you. And for a kid who was just like so close to the land and understanding that what I give, it also gives back. And there was this bond and this like relationship that all I have to do is give love to the earth and like treat the earth, in a good way, because it's something that's looking out for me. So from there, that's kind of where I set my path. After high school, I went straight into a degree in sustainable living, with an emphasis on living soils and living systems. With Elaine Ingham was my teacher at the university, and we just went in and I started learning about permaculture and really understanding that the solution is found in the problem. Because before I was like, oh, people, like, we're destroying the earth, oh my, what are we gonna do? And all of the other students are like, we're going down this downward spiral. But then we take permaculture and we're like, oh yeah, we're the problem, but that's so great because now we can be the solution. And so it just kept going from there. I did an ecological farmer certification. My health started declining because I thought I was eating healthy food, but apparently I wasn't. So my health declined. And then I decided to go to school for nutritional therapy. So I went to school for that. But while I was in school for that, all of the soil stuff I had learned started really making sense as from like our own health, and how the health of the soil and the health of people is so connected. You cannot separate it. And that I really needed to let people know about this. And I had to find out if something like this existed. Were other people studying this? Was this like, I needed to find my tribe with this realm. And then that's when I found Dan Kittredge and the Bionutrient Food Association and started diving into that higher level quality of food, where we're actually growing food for people, not for insects or that are prone to disease. And so this is kind of where I've taken this. In the back story of all of that, I had accidentally gotten the job as a virtual assistant for Rebel Health Tribe, and I was just working on that with them. And then, during the day, I was teaching at the University of Richmond, or just trying to pursue this on whatever scale I could, anywhere I was. So on the back end, I was like working with them, and they were teaching me so much about online stuff, and I was just learning a tremendous amount. And then that's when I met Joe, and he was like, we got to do this. We got to get this message out. And like for me, like that's just, I had no clue how to do that on the internet at all, and that was like possible. I was still very much like, just had my hands in the soil. And then he was like, we can get this message out to like a huge amount of people, and that most of the people that like are today that are going to grow food are behind a screen. So for me, it was like merging the two was the new, like, it was just beautiful. And I was like, this is what I should be doing. Like, so Joe really helps make the vision that I was interested in pursuing come to light and come true. And so I'm just grateful for meeting him. And it's awesome how when you start getting on the right path, things just start lining up and you start meeting the right people and things start happening. And I just think that we need more people just pursuing their purpose and what they enjoy in life. And it will benefit the planet just by doing that.
Okay, so we've got Jessica, the certified ecological farmer and nutritional therapy practitioner extraordinaire. You need to put that out there at the end of it. I don't know. There's all this, and then we got Joe and this Rebel Health Tribe. So tell me a little bit more about that, Joe, and kind of where that came about. Because what brought you two together, kind of, it sounds like there was some merging of two backgrounds that were on a collision course for benefiting humanity. And tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, we started Rebel Health Tribe about 3 or 4 years ago. Me and my partner Mike Roseline. Before that, I had my own company. Before that, I was really sick and went down that path of healing myself. Came out of sort of the corporate world and went back to school for health and nutrition, and with the idea that I wanted to help other people regain their health.
Well, on that note, so it sounds like all three of us went through some major health issues.
Yeah.
And we both ended up back to that 4-layer of soil, and the fact that it rains, that brings us back to life. It's like that thing that we all grant our true health to. It's all back to that soil and back to the stuff we grow. But that's just injury, because that's like 2013 was my worst health year ever. And even though I'd already started my organization prior to that, I thought I had things going well, just like you were talking about, Jessica. And then I had to totally change my eating habits and really get back into the core of what, where my health came from. And now I'm back in good again. So interesting. Yeah. Keep going. Keep telling me, because it's just kind of cool. Yeah. Nice little common ground. We've all been sick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's, it's funny, everyone that we talk to and interview, it seems to be much more common than not. People recover their own health, and it's like, oh, I need to tell other people about this and help other people. But yeah, that shifted for me somewhere around 2009, 2010, and walked away from my business at the time and went back to school. Started coaching people as a nutritionist. Fast forward a bit, I did an online course. I created an online cooking course, like a healthy cooking course. Mm-hmm. That was my entry into online sort of, I don't want to say marketing, but basically online marketing, where I realized that I could impact so many more people, if I do this in an ethical way, online, and I, stopped seeing people one-on-one, because I was able to put this information online and help thousands of people instead of one person at a time. So that was sort of the entry point into the online space. Started Rebel Health Tribe, like I said, about 3 years ago with a program called Primal 90, which was like a 90-day online course to coach people at their own pace, really. But it was designed for 90 days. And just never looked back. Like every time we would launch a product, we'd impact more people, and have these stories of people whose health had improved because of something we did, and in some cases they were, halfway across the earth, and it's like, this is amazing. And so, when I connected with Jessica, to me, it was like everything that I had done in my life, like the previous businesses, despite the fact that I hated those businesses at the time, and it was a big reason for the decline in my health, I learned something from that helped me. Everything that I went through, good or bad, led me to this point of the soil and getting this message out. And so, I'm able to look back at all the things that I resented previously and like, oh, there was a lesson there, and I needed that lesson to help me do what I'm doing right now. And so it kind of goes back to, at some point you have to trust your instinct. You have to trust what the universe is calling you to do, if you will, and go for it. And do whatever it takes to get your message out there and live your life on your terms and live your purpose. And that's kind of served me pretty well.
Didn't you use video as a way to get through the healing process?
Yeah, that's actually an interesting fact. When I was, it was actually a real estate business that I was in, which is horrible. but I needed a way to escape, and so I started making like these silly videos. But then I started making short films and series and things like that as a way to sort of escape, the part of my life that I wasn't happy with. But again, like that, it seemed like my whole life, has been trying to push me down this path of filmmaking and storytelling. From as early on as like 16, there was always this sort of pull. But I was raised as in this generation where it's like that's great, that's a hobby, something you do on nights and weekends, but it's not a career. And so I kept having this conflict where, gosh, that's really what I want to do, but I've got to do the secure thing. I have to do the safe thing.
Yeah.
And then once I realized that, there's this thing called the internet, and I can make stuff and people will watch it. It was a game changer, and just haven't looked back.
That's an interesting background piece for you as well. For me, I had a real estate investment company that I ran for a number of years and did really well. And but it kind of around where the economy started shifting, because I started that one back in 2001. But when the economy started shifting, it's like we started selling off stuff. Some of my partners were a little more reluctant. They ended up losing everything, my other business partners, because they didn't get out quick enough. But just interesting story, because then when I knew the shift was happening, I had this little agriscaping business, just doing those little side things. So I'd remodel the front yards and add some edibles here and there with my tenants. We had, I was getting tired of sending late notices to my tenants. And I said, they're not suffering from a lack of late notices. That's not their problem. So why am I sending them late notices? And so I'd send them a little note and I said, hey, can we just sit down and talk about your finances for a little bit? I'll give you a 1 month, you can go in arrears on your monthly payments if we can sit down and have a conversation. And every single time I'd sit down with them, and I'd start realizing that people put their priority, like the priorities were just out of whack. Like what they were paying first wasn't really what kept them alive. It wasn't what kept the house over their head or things like that. It's like I remember sitting down with one family in particular, and my rent was $650 and they hadn't made a payment. And yet they'd spent $1,300 on fast food that month. $1,300. And I was like, well, that's really interesting. And then they spent another $800 just on a bunch of medical stuff. And so I'm going, you guys are over $2,000 a month just on your health. And they're like, well, yeah, that's what happens because we're so busy. It's like, well, you're busy because you're not healthy. It's like you're spending so much time and your priorities are a little out of whack. Because right now, if you keep on this track, you're going to be dead and evicted from your home. So you're homeless. So how's that going to work for you? But it was just an interesting conversation. And in each case, they came to a realization that they could be healthier if they started growing their own garden. And we started rewarding them for doing things like that. So we started rewarding them, and I'd even give them a discount on their rents if they grew a garden and they kept it. Because what I ended up finding is that if I just had my tenants grow a garden and eat from their garden, if they were just eating from it regularly and growing a garden, they were way better with their finances. Like they were smarter. Yeah. They weren't eating out all like crazy. They were healthier, and so they weren't spending all this other money. And so maybe it was a selfish endeavor. I don't know if it was or not, but it turned into just the reality that the synergy, they had lost connection with the synergy of my relationship with them, and so did I. Like, this is my property, but let me grant you the right to grow your own health here. I want you to be healthy.
That's brilliant.
I want you to be healthy across the board. I want you to be healthy on all these things, because that means you pay my rents, but that also means you're beautifying my property. And let me reward you for that, because it makes my life more secure. It makes your life healthier and more secure. And it was a cool little relationship. So we literally built my land, all of my stuff. We call it Home Quest Assistance, because that was the other thing. People weren't wanting to live in my home forever if they were renting one. So I built a whole program just to help them be able to buy a home, grow their own home someday. And it started in their garden. It's like, well, let me help you offset your expenses so you can save more. Let's grow some more food in your backyard. And so all along the way, it's kind of the same idea, but it's just interesting that real estate was some part of your background, Joe. We might have to talk about that another time.
Yeah, and kudos to you, man. Being in that space, being in that industry, I don't think I've ever come across someone with as much compassion and empathy as you as a landlord. So good for you. And
yeah, that's kind of how we ended up getting a lot of our people. We had a waiting list for the houses that we had because people started hearing that. And you can probably guess, right? It's like, well, if you're really serving people on more than just their home level, and you're the landlord that's like, hey, you haven't paid, here's your late notice, here's the guy at your door that's going to knock on your door and give you your, whatever, and you've just now racked up another $3,000 in fees on top of what you owe, whatever it ends up being. It's like, oh man, something's funny with this industry. And I much rather had my waiting list than my eviction notices. That's
great.
Anyway, but it's an interesting concept though, and the reason I kind of brought that up is because people they don't have anybody to come to their door or knock on their door and give them their eviction notice based on the way they're running their life or the way that food is being run. There's no one coming to our farmers and wanting to evict them because they're not maintaining their crops right or anything like that. It doesn't, the only one doing that's Monsanto because they think they might have their seed,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so it's kind of a scary scenario we live in, where people don't feel like they have control over their life or their health. They got to get insurance from someplace else, and they got to get everybody outside to then serve them, rather than then go inside and find their soul first, and then go out and serve somebody. But what I think all three of us have found is like, just as one of your first guy, Jim Adams, it's like he had to go find himself first, and now he can go serve people even better. There's a greater depth to everything he does, just like I'm sure you guys have experienced.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And this seems to be a theme that keeps recurring, is this idea of going in and really figuring out what's going to feed you and feed your soul, and going for it. There's this, there's a fearlessness to service, and and it starts with going in and figuring out what it is that you really need. And turns out that what you really need is to take care of yourself first, so you can take care of everyone else around you. So it's been it's certainly a common thing that keeps coming up with pretty much everything that we're doing. This idea of purpose.
Yeah, and that purpose, it's like, from my experience with it, the way we like to talk about it is that it's finding my own soul has a lot to do with finding the way I serve others. It's like, how do I serve others? How do I really serve others? And bring it into every part of my day. It's like that. Yeah, growing this food.
It's hard to find a greater purpose in life than to serve others.
Yeah, and with even some of our own employees, it's like we had an employee earlier this week that had basically just needed some time, and he went and sat down, and we just kind of gave him some time. He was just kind of blowing up. He had kind of an emotional blow up, and we're like, all right, just go sit down for a little bit, be all right. But then the next comment that was made from him was, you know what, I just got to forget what I need to be doing. I need to be out here serving somebody else. And that was the gist of it. It's like, kind of forget yourself and get to work. And it was interesting to watch that as he just got after his job of working, he was moving mulch that day. He was just moving mulch. But then we started realizing where the mulch was going and who it was for and what it was creating for this family and the food that they were creating in their garden. It's like he just goes, my day really isn't that bad. I'm out here and I'm serving some people. And so it was just beautiful to see that, just getting out and having more purpose and realizing, it's like remembering the purpose by which we spend our time, or putting some more purpose into the time. It heals so much more.
Yeah, I mean, and actually enjoying what you're doing, while you're doing it, and knowing that it's for a good cause. Like, there's so much of a positive feedback loop, and really just understanding that by growing food and by helping install these gardens and stuff, you're really helping people around you on such a large level, from the food to the way that food was produced and how that impacts the environment. Because when I was, looking into the food quality issues and stuff like that, not all food is created equal. Not all carrots are created equal. There are like different ways of growing food that produce different products. Just like whatever you put in, you get out. If you're putting in, these NPK fertilizers or something you go and buy at the store and like mix up that's, all inorganic, then that's what can you really expect from the food? It's just like going to a fast food place. These are like fast foods, and they don't really build an internal system in our growing systems that's going to support a quality of food. And what we found is when we were going around traveling, interviewing these people, how they took care of the land was so important. They cared so much about the flavor and who was going to eat the food or Patty, which chef was going to use this food, and like what their characteristics are. And Jim just wanting to like bring good food, like he was just so, his heart was so in it. And Will Allen and all these people and Dan Kittredge really bringing to the front the importance of the quality of the food that we're producing. It's like just growing your own food is like the first step, and then understanding how doing that one step unlocks this whole other realm of things, as far as like now all the rain that hits your land runs off cleaner. Now the air around where you are is fresher. Now the soil is healthier and you're sequestering carbon from your area, and you just really start building on this. And then imagine what could happen if everybody started growing food in a healthy way in their backyards, how much of an impact it can make globally.
Yeah, it's huge. And it's wonderful to be able to be talking with you guys. Again, if you guys want to find them, what website do they go to again? So they can find this wonderful video you guys are creating?
Yeah. It's called growfoodfilm.com.
Growfoodfilm.com.
Mm-hmm.
And this is great. I mean, I'm looking forward to watching it myself. And now I know you don't know the exact date, perhaps, but we know kind of a timeline, right? It's the spring of this year.
Yeah, our aim was early spring, but it's a documentary, So
Right.
yeah, I mean, we're probably going to be closer to mid to late spring with it. It's in post production right now, so just going through the footage and piecing together the stories. It's been amazing, but yeah, we're probably looking like mid to late spring.
Yeah, and if people go to that website, they can sign up, so they'll be notified as soon as it comes out, and they even get to watch it for free.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah,
great.
we really want everybody to be able to see this.
Yeah, and they've got a great little trailer that's on there as well. If you scroll down on the page, and then you can sign up right there on the site to watch it for free. And man, I'm looking forward to getting to know you guys more and seeing what else is growing around you guys, because obviously you can see a lot's attracted around who you are and what you guys are up to, and some great knowledge that you are sharing with others through your film. I'm excited to see it and share it. So any other last thoughts? I guess we're getting kind of close to our timeline end, but any other last thoughts you'd like to share with the agriscaping community?
Yeah, I mean, I suspect that the people listening to this are already growing some food. Get out there and inspire others to do the same, and don't be afraid to use some technology and social media to get your message out. It's been a big shift for a lot of people that we talk to, but yeah, I mean, we need as many people as possible growing food.
Now, have you guys ever seen the movie The Circle? It's kind of
I don't think so. No.
It's a creepy modern era movie. I think it's on Amazon Prime right now. But anyway, it's got Tom Hanks in it, and it's kind of this mythical, large, massive company that starts kind of getting to know us a little too well, with videos everywhere. But there was a quote in there that I did like, and they all say, "Caring is sharing." If you care about other people and you care about what's going on in the world, well, share some of the things that you're up to. Share the things that might inspire somebody. Share the things that might get someone curious. And just like you've done with this film, and I think what we're all going to experience is that we're going to be inspired. And if you're inspired, make sure that you are invited as well. You move forward, you take some action on it. And so with everybody out there, every time you're out sharing something, inspire them to do something, be sure you take the second step, and that's invite someone to take an action on what they were inspired by. Take some action.
Exactly.
That's the key. You can't just leave it to be inspired. You got to invite. You got to take some action. You got to move it forward. And if you do, it grows on itself. It's like planting seeds. It's like giving it water. It's like you're planting the seeds of inspiration, but now you need to nurture it. You need to put the rain on of movement, put some action towards nurturing those things, and it grows into something amazing.
Yeah, and that's really what this whole film is about. It's not just a film. It's a call to action for people to just get out there and try it.
Perfect. Anybody can grow stuff. And if you've seen on our website, we got a cool little one, seed to supper in 7 days or less. So if you want a really quick route, if you're just into the fast food, that's about as fast as you can get a nice microgreen.
Awesome.
Sounds great.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to talking to you guys again. Again, thank you, Joe and Jessica. Great to have you both on. Again, find them at say it again one more time for everybody.
Growfoodfilm.com. It's growfoodfilm.com.
Growfoodfilm.com. Growfoodfilm.com. You'll find Joe and Jessica there and their wonderful story that they've created and cultivated for you to be inspired by and to share with others. And that might be the greater point. Because you care, you're going to share. And because you're sharing, you're going to inspire some people and invite them to take the next step after they watch that film. Awesome.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're so welcome. We'll talk again.
Great.
Awesome.
Thanks, Justin. Thanks.
Bye.
Yeah, the way this is going to sort of function from sort of a marketing perspective, and if you want to sort of connect on that level, the film, is going to be free to watch for folks, and they'll have an opportunity to support that if they choose to, if they want sort of lifetime access to it. But then it's also going to be that we're going to follow that up with the course that we created as well. So the film is really getting people inspired, giving them some tools and some tips to get started. But then the course is really, a deeper dive into, okay, now I'm excited. I want to grow food, but how do I do it? And then the course will teach them how to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of how the funnel is going to operate.
Yeah, there's so much like conflicting information on the internet out there that it's overwhelming, I think, for people to just start growing food, because they grow that first crop because they're all excited, and then it gets downy mildew or some kind of fungus or something wipes out the whole crop, and then they're like they don't want to try it again because they're like that was such an awful experience. So we want to try to curb that as much as possible.
Yeah, we don't want people to have a $60 tomato experience either, right? Where they buy all this crazy expensive soils and all this stuff, and then end up with like 4 tomatoes after $240 of investment. Right?
Yeah. Well, what we've found is that by growing food this way, where you understand like the foundations of life and how to support that in your system, that actually insects and fungus and all that stuff, they can't actually digest the plants. Like the plants are functionally resistant. Like when your plants are making complete proteins, then the sucking insects such as aphids and stuff, they don't have livers, so they can't actually digest your plants. They can only digest amino acids. So when your plant is able to have so much energy and all the minerals available that make those enzymes function, that put together those amino acids into complete proteins, then your plants actually become like insects can't digest them. So there's like all these different levels of health, and we just want people to be able to achieve that, so that they don't have to fight nature. They can just go with it, because what we've really found is, from my own experience, organic gardening is great, but for me, the biggest issue was, you have to memorize what organic solution to kill that insect or that pest. Like I was just done memorizing diseases and organic preparations to kill off those diseases. And I was like, can we just, establish this from a foundational level, like preventative healthcare kind of stuff, and where my plants just take care of themselves and I just have to support them. So that's really what we're trying to get out to people.
The punchline is you're probably going to have us back on.
Yeah.
Probably. Well, the other side of it is, it's like we teach agriscaping. We have a mastery course and we have pro level courses and stuff too. So we have certification. So we're trying to build that pro network to support all these people so that they don't fail. And so a big part of it is that professional network. But what we've got in our mastery course, we have a bunch of elective series stuff. Whoop, that didn't sound good. Did you guys hear that in the background? Well, but some of my thinking is, I guess, with the course you've got, I'm sure you're going to sell some of these courses and stuff too. That's basically how you're funneling it in. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So inside of that, maybe we could, if we can cross-pollinate, because we know cross-pollination works really well with what you guys are doing. Maybe we could weave that in, and we can actually get a course that we could sell through our site. That's kind of an elective that then leads a lot of our people that are doing their mastery coursework or their pro level stuff, so they can really get some of that.
Cool.
What you guys are doing. I'm thinking out loud at this point, but I think there's some synergy there that we could create. And maybe on the cross sides, it's like going professional. It's like for people that want to take their inspiration that they've gained from you and go even to a pro level, we'd love to be that pro source for them to get certified, to get out there and doing something and give them some business models that can really help them and help them grow a business that can really, really be self-sustaining.
Yeah. I love that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah, because when it comes to growing in the beginning education stuff and the stuff that people can take inside their home and their whys, we don't get into the whys as much as it sounds like you guys do, and I love it. And because we just did a class last night as part of the mastery course, and I did it on pest prevention and companion planting, and kind of how your a plant positive pest prevention plan is better than any of those other chemicals you can throw in your garden. Grow the plant right, just like you were talking about, Jessica, building it so it really is fully supported by the nutrients that you put into the soil, so you don't even have to worry about the bugs, right?
Yeah, and it's not just nutrients. I mean, it's biology, right? It's the digestive system of the plant. We know that for ourselves. You can put all the stuff in there, but if you're stressed and your gut is like really all whacked up, like you're not going to absorb those nutrients. So it's really like, the full spectrum of it all.
Yep, I had to relearn that. That was kind of my thing in 2013. I buried 6 people in my family that year, and it was a very stressful year. And so I ended up, just by the nature of all my traveling around and working with the families and stuff, I was eating a lot more fast food, and I became allergic to everything, even dirt. And it was cool. Wow. Well, the Bacillus subtilis that was in my soil was not in my system in any way, shape, or form, and so I was totally reacting against it.
Oh my gosh.
And blistering everywhere that soil touched and was wet. So if I sweat, and we sweat a lot here in Arizona, if I'm sweating and I'm touching soil, I'd blister up. My eyes were all blistered up. I mean, it was bad. But anyway, I can tell you our medical horror stories maybe next time.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
Well, it's great talking with you guys. I got to get, I'll give you, send me an email if you have any questions. You can reach me easiest at justin@agriscaping.com. That's my direct.
Okay.
Awesome. And so if you got any ideas, Joe, on synergies and stuff like that, it looks like you guys, you're definitely more into website stuff than I am.
You're definitely way ahead of a lot of people in this field. So we're like, wow, this dude is like doing it. That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think our focus and where we're headed, like I said, we're moving to get the pro networks and build that support system. We're all about educate, certify, and support. And so we're taking people to that next level. We love what you guys are doing too. So
cool. Thanks, Justin. I appreciate
we could talk for hours. And my client just came in the door and she waved at me. So I'll go talk to her.
Okay, cool. Great. Awesome. Have a good one. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.